ladies and gentlemen. This is the official LFDRA documentation for launches in all of the electorates Australia-wide. I will do a prelude speech for the electorates. We did have a website, lfdra.org. That website, due to funding constraints, we need $1 million Australian dollars to keep that website active. And you can contact me via the message link on the website. We need $1 million to keep the website lfdra.org, which GoDaddy, the website provider, hijacked the website and put their own marketing on that. So to keep that active, we need $1 million to keep it active. So this is the official LFDRA speech for the electorates. So if you choose to join the LFDRA, that's the $32 memberships. So we need a combined total of $1 million to keep the website active and for marketing and promotional activities in all the electorates Australia-wide to deliver the policies that we want to deliver for the future prosperity for all Australians. So I'll just go through the speech as a prelude. Welcome, ladies and gentlemen, to the LFDRA launch here in the electorates, in all electorates Australia-wide. LFDRA stands for League for Republic Democracy Australia, and we say long live a republic in Australia and long live a republic of Australia. We, the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, will end housing exploits and grant every Australian in the first term of government the complimentary 3-bedroom houses. We, the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, will end housing exploits as well as end bank housing investment exploits. We saw, just briefly pausing on the speech, we saw in 1974 to 76, we saw the Malcolm Fraser government, and we saw the Malcolm Fraser repeal of the Housing Corporation Act and who profited from the Housing Corporation Act. And we saw detrimental impacts on home ownership title documents for Australians. We, the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, will never fund forced mind control weapons that hush the populace of this country as Labor Liberal governments do and fund. We, the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, will also ensure car registration has a federal ministry with a MyGov delivery link, ensuring Australians are only charged once for the registration of their car, with the cost of the print of the plate through a link to MyGov service delivery platform, though maintaining safety inspections for cars every 2 years. At the moment, we have very limited candidates. We don't have many candidates at all. We did have lfdra.org, which was GoDaddy American company, was the provider for the web hosting service. One hosting service was in China, though that one fell through. This hosting service was with an American company, though all that GoDaddy American company does is then market their brand on the domain. So they buy the domain and then market their product. So we actually need $1 million to keep the lfdra.org website active, and the $32 memberships were to help the lfdra.org website stay active. So we want to have candidates, contestants in every electorate Australia-wide for upcoming election. If you'd like to nominate a candidate for the upcoming election in your electorate, you don't have to contact me. It would be good if you contact me. I'm the Chief of Staff, the LFDRA. Yes, there's the ADF Chief. Some people have got this mixed up with Mark Finskin, who is the Liberal Party Australian Defence Force Chief. LFDRA has a structure in its political process within its governing body of its party caucus and whatnot. As the Chief of the LFDRA, the Chief of the LFDRA is information for all candidates, contestants in the electorates to facilitate what we want to facilitate in Australian policy making decisions that will head Australia in the right direction. That's a different facilitator. Mark Binskin is an ADF chief, not a chief of LFDRA, which is in need of nominations and electorates for candidates that are committed to the cause and the party policies of the LFDRA. You can also visit the League for Republic Democracy of Australia Facebook page and watch the video series. That's from the humble beginnings of the LFDRA on Facebook. We have foreign policy, we do have health policy. We have policy that will govern all new ministries of a new government in this country and keep the former oppositions and former governments in this country to account. Our commitments within the first 3-year term of government. We will build the new Republican ink and plastic printer to deliver the 3-bedroom houses for the Australian people. We saw what the Housing Corporation Act did and who profited from the Housing Corporation Act. We know full well about Malcolm Fraser's repeal regarding the Housing Corporation Act. We will build a new ink and plastic printer to ensure every heart beats in Australia for 100 years, increasing life expectancy through medical science and innovation research in medical health in Australia. And the forced mind control weapons used by Labor and Liberal governments of brutal past regimes. Your vote for the League for Republic Democracy of Australia will ensure the following. We have a democratic democracy government, as my role is Chief Information Officer of the LFDRA. Don't get it mixed up. Don't get it mixed up with my former 13 RCU cadet role in the Australian Defence Force, in which I was a cadet and exploited Australian child soldier and whatnot, and you owe it. It's just an ongoing thing. But don't get that mixed up with current ADF Chief Mark Binskin. Don't get that mixed up at all. This is LFDRA, which is a political party of Australia, which is in need of nominations in all electorates Australia-wide for the federal election. The by-elections that have been held, it's been disappointing with the by-elections, and obviously the Australian people just allow big business like Liberal Party big business and Labor Party big business to just bulldoze what Australians really need. And we saw the Housing Corporation Act, and we saw the repeal in the Housing Corporation Act by the Malcolm Fraser government, and then who profited from the repeal of the Housing Corporation Act. So ensuring a smooth transition to a Republic of Australia and a Republic of Australia, and long live a Republic in Australia, and long live a Republic of Australia. Recognition of all Australians, as well as building a world-class education system for all Australians, building the universities and colleges of the future, incurring zero university debts for all Australians. We have a 3-phase policy. First of all, housing for all Australians, complementary 3-bedroom homes, ownership title documents for all Australians. Those Australians that are mortgage equivalent to that amount will have that mortgage equivalent paid off in full to the 3-bedroom house equivalent. We will build a Republican currency printer, ensure currency exchanges are of world-class value, and we want to ensure that the Australian Republican currency is actually stronger than the British pound. Australia's currency should be the strongest currency on the planet. Now, we have the heart of the people of this country at the core of every policy of the LFDRA. A vote for the LFDRA is a vote for the future and freedoms all Australians deserve. We will never fund new prisons in this country, as Labor Liberal governments do. We will end the exploits and the bulldoze mentality of Labor Liberal parties in this country. We stand side by side with the Greens. We do not support, never will support legalised euthanasia in this country. We never will. We will support the legalisation of medicinal and medical forms of cannabis, and we do see that there are some entrepreneurs and growers that may not be licensed in medicinal strains of cannabis, and we'll ensure that those medicinal and medical strains of cannabis and strain strengths and dispensaries labelled and maintained in strict licensing. We will build the best weapons in the world for the Australian military right here in Australia, having good defence spending budgets. We will ensure all the ministries coincide with policy legislative instruments, such as the Australian Parliament. When we, the LFDRA, League for Republic Democracy Party, win a government in this country and Australia becomes the first republic in Australia, and we'll deliver on all of our policies. Like I said earlier, we know about the Malcolm Fraser Housing Corporation Act repeal and who profited from the Housing Corporation Act repeal of the Malcolm Fraser government, and we don't want to be bulldozed by Liberal parties and or Labor parties. In the first term of government, if we, the LFDRA League for Republic Democracy of Australia, can form government if elected by the Australian people, for the Australian people, we will deliver all of our commitments in the first 3 years if LFDRA is elected as a majority body to deliver for the Australian people. So the taxation policy that's been spoken about as we announced tax cuts, all tax cuts. There's 3 phases of the policy. First is the complementary 3-bedroom houses. After the complementary 3-bedroom houses with ownership title documents to right the wrongs of past Liberal parties, that Liberal parties have done the wrong thing for the Australian people through the Housing Corporation Act repeal of the Malcolm Fraser government, and then all these bank investment exploits that didn't open up home ownership title documents for Australians. This is what we will put in place. This will be the 3 phase for the 65 billion in tax cuts. This is what will happen first. First, there will be ownership title documents, 3-bedroom houses for all Australians at the age of 19 will receive complementary ownership title documents to a 3-bedroom house. Second phase in the policy structure of the first majority sitting is a legislation of $33 per hour as a federal minimum. Any business, corporation or business at all that's found to pay below $33 an hour minimum in Australia over the age of 18 will receive harsh penalties. And harsh penalties in elections and politics isn't a good thing, though in the long run, $33 an hour will progress the interests for Australians in this country, as well as the ownership title documents to 3-bedroom houses at the age of 19. Those mortgages that aren't being paid off after 19, they'll receive that mortgage equivalent and whatnot, and that possibly could be taxed at a higher rate to the bank from the Malcolm Fraser repeal of the Housing Corporation Act that didn't allow ownership title documents for many, many Australians that are pushed into hardships over the repeal of the Housing Corporation Act. And then tax cuts will follow after the complementary 3-bedroom houses and ownership title documents for all Australians, and the $33 an hour minimum legislated hourly rate in Australia, and then the 65 billion in tax cuts. We, the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, will no longer recognise, if we do become a governing body in this country, we will be a republic, and it will be the Republic of Australia and a republic in Australia. We will govern as a republic if we win the majority body from the Australian people. And taxes will be lowered by 8.5%, all tax rates 8.5%, after the ownership title documents in the 3-bedroom houses for all Australians, and those mortgages equivalent in the 3-bedroom houses. Though we had $32 memberships, GoDaddy, the corporation in America that makes you buy domains and then markets their product on that domain. Okay, they buy the domain, then market their product on that domain, and those businesses or people that have purchased that internet-based product have been left high and dry. So basically, it's $1 million to keep the LFDRA.org website active and to have the marketing and campaign funds and and everything we need to ensure we have a winning victory at the next election. And Australia is the first republic in Australia, a first republic and a Republic of Australia in the year at the next federal election Australia-wide. Giving the Australian people the future all Australians deserve and freedoms Australians deserve as well. We will end the exploitation of our lives by big bulldozer businesses such as Labor and Liberal governments that have wronged the Australian people in the past. We, the League for Republic Democracy of Australia, will deliver on all commitments and election promises in the first 3 years, and the complementary 3-bedroom homes and ownership title documents will be done in the first sitting week. The $33 an hour minimums and the penalties for paying below will be put forward in the first sitting month, and the tax cuts will be in the third sitting month. We will never ever tax superannuation releases as the big bulldozer Labor Liberal Party governments do. We will policy the government for all Australians and deliver the freedoms and future all Australians deserve, ending Labor Liberal exploits. All we ask the people to do is nominate the candidates for the LFDR in your electorate. Don't get sidelined by some search engine saying the LFDRA chief is Mark Vincent. If the LFDRA government were to form, Australia at the election day, Australia would be a republic. It would be no longer a queen residing over Australia with a representative. Australia would be a republic in its own right if the people chose an LFDRA government. Mark Vincent may step up to a role in an LFDRA government as a chief of the Australian Defence Force. There would be no longer a royal section in the Australian Defence Force because Australia would be a republic. That's the hallmark of the first initial presentation to the people of Australia regarding our 3 goals and visions and the upcoming federal election in Australia. So thank you very much for your time listening early today, and enjoy. Share the video with as many people as you'd like. If you'd like to use snippets of what I've quoted in this speech and put it in your newspaper articles, in all and the LFDRA is here to stay. The only thing we're not happy with is we had $32 memberships. GoDaddy, the web provider, basically all they do is rip domains and then market their product to that domain. So we actually need $1 million to maintain an active website and for marketing for the elections. So you can contact me on this website. That concludes the LFDRA speech here in all electorates Australia-wide. So to be a part of the LFDRA, we support the Republican movement in Australia. We, like I said, we didn't support what the Malcolm Fraser government did. We don't support the bulldozing mentality of Liberal parties and Labor parties. We don't support the legal euthanasia that the Greens party did. We do put forward the legalisation of medical and medicinal uses of cannabis in Australia and registering strength at dispensaries. And there's a document on the website about quoting the Harvard medical professors and whatnot that have cured cancers in the body from that. And we've seen what's happening in California, in America, from medical and medicinal uses of that. So we do support Dean Natatali with his legalisation of cannabis Australia-wide. So that concludes the League for Republic Democracy of Australia here live broadcast, and enjoy the rest of your day. And thanks for listening. I would ask you for questions, though. It's not a press conference as such. I don't have media asking questions at this point in time. I am the sole publicist and producer of this live event here on Facebook, and is at the cutting edge of democracy. in Australia to put forward the policies that we want to put forward to protect the interests of Australians here and for the next 300 years or 100 years in this country, and to end the royal reign in this country and to become a republic and to end the brutal and the bulldoze mentality of the Labor and Liberal parties in this country. And that concludes the call today. Now, there'll be another live broadcast when I decide to do it. But if people want to get in contact to nominate, all the nominators have to do to support what we support in the votes in an Australian Parliament, in a Republican Parliament in Australia, is to nominate 3 or 4 candidates in all electorates Australia-wide, and all they have to nominate under as is their name and LFDRA, or can be written League for Democracy Republic Australia, or LFDRA, League for Republic Democracy of Australia. On the website it reads League for Democracy Republic Australia. LFDRA, League for Republic Democracy, LFDRA.org was the website. Due to funding constraints, we need $1 million to keep it active. We're not a bulldozer mentality as the Labor Party and the Liberal Party are. We support giving Australians what the Australian people deserve, and that's the way we'll govern as a republic in this country. So that concludes the video today. So to be a part of it, you can contact me or just nominate LFDRA with the person's name. 3 or 4 nominates. The $1 million in funding to the political representation. As we know, Malcolm Turnbull in the Liberal Party, we know all he did was pay $1 million of his own money, and he became a Prime Minister of Australia. He just paid $1 million of his own money and got the bulldoze and did what he wanted to do. A merchant banker that exploited many Australians through the exploits of the financial service industry in this country, exploited many Australians, pushed them into hardships for ownership title documents to their houses, and that's who we've got leading the country at this time. And that concludes the live video today. I'm Harry J. Stiller, and once again, thanks for listening.